What's going on, guys? Ian Fernando here, and I know it's been a while that I have done a podcast or video interview. It's been busy, especially what's going on in the world. But I have a really good guest, and I've known him for very long time in the affiliate space. We actually just bumped into each other probably last year at Affiliate Summit, Affiliate World in Spain, I believe. And it was my actually first time meeting him in person again after maybe 7 years, I want to say. So I want to introduce you to Jim Banks. He was an affiliate back in the days, runs traffic, has a media agency now. So Jim, if you can, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you've been up to.
Hey, Ian, good to talk to you. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always like I do a lot of traveling, and for me, it's always great to serendipitously bump into old friends like Ian. Again, we've known each other for many years. I mean, probably, I don't know, 12, 13 years, I guess, maybe something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of travel. And so for me, it was, again, just serendipitous to do that. But yeah, so from my perspective, I mean, I've been involved in the industry. I'll put it in inverted commas because to me, like digital
Yeah.
marketing has been my kind of like career since 1999. So this is my, what is it, the 21st year of doing it. And I started doing SEO, and then I moved into paid search, and I did affiliate marketing, and I've been an advertiser, I've been an affiliate, I've been an affiliate network. So for me, I've had plenty of opportunities to make mistakes, and and obviously, I think for me, it's one of those things. There'll come a point in time when I wake up and I'm not enjoying kind of doing what I'm doing, and that might be the time when I kind of go, you know what, I'm going to call time on this now. But I don't think that day will ever come. I think there's so much change going on in the industry at the moment that I think there'll be again so many things. The one thing you can be guaranteed of is change. That's the one thing I think we can say with some degree of confidence, that change is going to happen, and we just don't need to kind of we just need to roll with the punches that will come, because I think that's an inevitability.
Yeah, no, I agree, and this is why I think I always get drawn back into paid media, back into affiliate marketing, back into CPH because I've started companies, I've sold some, I've started and failed at a bunch of my own startup, but I always end up going back to the affiliate marketing CPA side just because there's an algorithm change that I want. Oh man, this new algo will keep me challenged enough until I figure it out, and then I'm like, now I'm bored. What's the next step?
And that's the thing. For me, it was always one of those things. Even to this day, right? And I mean, I've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on media over the years for various companies of various sizes. For me, it's always one of those things. Whenever I get involved in a new thing, whether it's either working with a new client or a new traffic source, I get really excited about it because it's something that nobody knows about, and you have the opportunity to kind of break ice on it the first time, take it out and see how it goes. And if it performs well, then you can clean up. And if it doesn't perform well, then you know how not to do things, right? And I think for me, that's always one of the things is you just got to be constantly prepared to put yourself in that uncomfortable position of trying something before the kind of best practice knowledge becomes available, right? And I think for me, it's always one of those things. Like most of the time when people start talking about a platform, right, the people who kind of broke the platform have moved on and they're doing something else, right? They're not using necessarily that platform anymore. They've kind of moved on to do other things, right? So
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's funny because sometimes I'll talk traffic to somebody and there's somebody who will be stuck on, say, Facebook, and they're complaining, oh, the CPCs are so high. I can't get my retargeting. And then I'll tell them about, you should buy like super cheap pops and fire the pixel on like the third click, and that'll decrease your CPCs like superbly low on Facebook. And then people are like, what? This new traffic source? And it's crazy the combinations that you can do with multiple traffic sources, and people don't understand. Like people will just look at Google and they think that, oh, I could only do keywords, I could only do display, and Facebook, I could only do Instagram and Facebook ads and all that. But they don't understand there's just so many
the
sources.
Thing is, Ian, like nobody has told the site owners, users, that they only do Facebook ads, right? So if they leave and go somewhere else, so again, I'm stunned how many agencies exist where they exist purely in the Facebook ecosystem, right? And even in the
Mhm.
Facebook ecosystem, they don't even function in all of it, right? They only do Facebook and Instagram. They don't even touch Messenger. They don't touch Audience Network, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are crazy not to kind of like have the opportunity to kind of have all of that running for you. And then obviously those people that don't buy, they leave, they might go somewhere else. And that's where, again, things like Pops, Native, Google, Microsoft,
Yeah.
Snapchat, Pinterest, right? They
I mean,
all kind of come into play, right? And
yeah.
and for me, one of the first things that I always do whenever I start working with a new client is I always make sure we pixel absolutely every single channel that exists, right? Because if you
Yeah.
think about it, the best, usually one of the best types of traffic that you have is remarketing campaigns, right? And everyone sees the kind of case studies and they go, oh, we got a 10x ROI on our campaign, right? And people go, wow, that's fantastic. But the reality of it is that's usually a remarketing campaign, right? And for
Yeah.
me, it's like, again, we have success with virtually every platform we work with clients when we only look at remarketing on its own, right? But we don't just do remarketing; we do other things as well. But we start off with that because that's the lowest of the low hanging fruit, right? It's people
Yeah.
came to my site, bought, they're looking at a product, they put it in the cart, they didn't buy it, they left, they then end up on Pinterest, right? And I want to be able to pick up the conversation over on Pinterest that we started on Facebook or Google or
Yeah.
wherever it happens to be,
Yeah.
right? To finish it off, right? And to me, that's when you then get into the murky kind of world of attribution, right? And saying, well, who's going to claim credit for it, right? Because if you're working with a Facebook agency, they're going to claim credit for everything, right? And
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Google's
I
going to
wouldn't
try and
know
claim
that.
credit for everything,
Mm.
Snapchat's going to try and claim credit for everything. And it's like, well, the reality, I always say to people, look, the reality of is this is if you've got a credit card bill or an invoice, that's the money that you spent. And if you have a Stripe or PayPal account, that's the money that you made. And everything
Mhm.
else in between is just noise, right?
Yeah.
And you
I
just need
agree.
to kind of like focus on what you spent and what you made, right? Take off your costs and everything else to give you your profit, right? And then go, have I actually got a sustainable business? Can I make this work for me like longer term, and can I scale it? Right.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is people move into scale mode long before they've even ascertained whether there is an opportunity within the model that they look at. Because again, it might be easy to kind of, to do things at a really small scale, right, and get a 10x ROI. But if they're trying to do it, 50 times that, 100 times that, 1,000 times that in terms of scale, right, it becomes, there's this kind of law of diminishing returns. The more you try and scale it, the less likely it is you'll be able to hit the home runs that you've been able to hit sort of when you pick off the kind of the really easy stuff to start out with.
Yeah. But I mean, the problem is a lot of people, they don't understand what model to start with, right? They just assume to create ad on Facebook and go from there. And they don't even know what to look based on their math or the analytics or the attribution. They just don't know any of that. And
And
I
the
think that's the
reality is
biggest.
that Facebook, Google, and any other platforms, they're not your friends, right? They're not there
Correct.
to help you, right? You need to work these things out for yourself, right? So
Yeah.
if you're spending things in a way that is like detrimental to your business, they're not going to go, you know what, Ian, I don't think you should kind of do it that way. I think you should try it this way instead. Put this in there and that will make it work really well for you. They just don't do that, right? As
Yeah.
long as
They
you're
don't.
prepared to kind of, here's my credit card, ding it, right? They're going to ding your credit card until you tell
Yeah.
them not to.
And that's the reason why Facebook and Google, they have so much more algorithm updates, and people are missing the opportunity on where they need to display their ads and all that stuff. But just because they're so fixated on just like, I don't know, the sidebar, right, of Facebook or Google's just DSPs instead of long-term keywords or, location-based targeting and all that. So I think it's just people just throw things at the wall and be like, oh, I spent $50 and I don't know what to do. And that's a problem, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh,
I always go into my mentality, right? Whenever I go into a new platform, so let's say I've never run any traffic on the platform, right? I will choose an amount of money, again, it might be $500, $1,000, something like that, right? And I will work on the basis that I'm prepared to lose every single dollar of that
yeah,
money
awesome.
while
Exactly.
I kind of like work out what the platform is, right? As long
Yeah.
as I know that I've got all of the things that I need, so my pixels and all that sort of stuff, I know got all the tracking capabilities in place, right?
Mhm.
I'm prepared to lose all of it, right? Testing out
Yeah.
the hypothesis I have around whether this particular channel is going to be included in my sort of media mix or not, right? And
Yeah. Correct. but people don't understand like losing money is part of the game because you're not going to just assume like, oh, here's $100 a campaign and I didn't get any phone calls or conversions, but they don't even know maybe their website are not functioning well. Your call to action is pretty bad. The users going 5 pages deep before they even hit a contact form. It's like all
Yeah.
these other things people don't think about, and then they just say, hey, here's $100. I gave it to Google. I don't want to do it anymore. I'd rather just do pops or buy traffic from Fiverr because they get visits, but they don't understand it's like bots.
Again, I mean,
Uh,
we as a kind of general rule, I mean, all the clients that we work with and any sites that we run ourselves, right? I mean, we always put in things like Lucky Orange, like immediately, like as soon as we sort of like get up a new site, that's one of the first um, pieces of code we'll put on the site is the Lucky Orange tag, right? So that we can actually see in real time what's going on, right? Because again, I don't want to wait 4, 6, 8 hours for Google or Facebook to tell me that things worked or didn't work, right? That's way
yeah.
too long, right? So for me, I'll put Lucky Orange in. I'll sit there in real time and watch it, right? And I'll be able to kind of see what's going on. And if people are moving through the site the way I expect them to, then that's fantastic. I can kind of keep watching. You know, eventually, again, I've got the noises set up so if we get a sale or we generate a lead,
Oh,
there's a kind of
it
a
pings up. Yeah,
bell,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, which again, it sounds really kind of cheesy, and eventually we get to the point, hopefully, that we're making so many sales we can turn the noise off because it becomes annoying, right?
It does.
And
Yeah,
that's when you know you kind of you hit a home run because you're
yeah.
you know you're going like that noise of that bell ringing when you make a sale is getting annoying now, right? So
Yeah, no, dude, it's so funny you say that because I know. Just real quick for everybody, Lucky Orange is something like a heat map. It's like something like Hotjar back in the day. It actually tracks your users' movement on your website, tracks where they clicks, the heat maps of where they're scrolling it, where they stay longer. So that's what Jim's talking about, and it's very powerful to use because Google Analytics does have their own version of a click map, not like a heat map. So Analytics will show you like 4% click here, 3% click there, but it doesn't. I believe it doesn't show you a heat map version on Analytics. Correct? They don't.
no,
They don't
no,
have
it
that anymore.
doesn't.
Yeah. So and for Google, it actually takes like half a day for that to generate the data for you. Whereas Lucky Orange is Hotjar, you can put it up and within like a couple of minutes, you already have your information that you can decipher.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's
for me,
what's
one of the things that's been really insightful, going back to kind of like just for a second, is it's been really insightful for me when you look at things like, you know, when you're looking at a web page and people have got like, you know, if they're doing something on a mobile phone or something like that, you can actually see their interactions. Like if they're doing taps on the phone, you can actually see when they're doing a tap on the phone, right? It'll record the screen and you can kind of play it back. And for me, it became really interesting because again, I don't know if you remember back in the day when people would put like images of credit cards on their website, right? So it'll be, you know,
I
it'd
mean, they
have
do
the
that now.
Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Diners, all that sort of stuff. So they'd have the
Yep.
kind of the image, right, of the credit cards that basically you took, right? And it'd have the PayPal logo and everything else, right? And
Yep.
what we found is that a lot of people were actually clicking or trying to click on the Visa
Oh wow.
logo or the Amex logo because that's the credit card that they were trying to pay with, right? Whereas
Uh huh.
what we found was that in actual fact, if you just start typing in your credit card, once you put in the first 2 digits, right, it can tell you
Who
it's a
knows?
Visa,
Yep.
it's a MasterCard, it's an Amex, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that was like, again, for the clients that we were working with, that was like a game changing thing because we were losing so many people going, well, I can't get my credit card to work, right? I'm just pressing this button all day long, pressing, nothing's happening, right? And they would abandon the cart and go off somewhere else, right? And then we basically said to the client, look, let's run a test. Let's do, you know, let's set up a kind of like a split test of 50% of the traffic with the logo, right? And 50% without the logo, right? And we ran a split test and the logo, the one without the logo overwhelmingly performed better, right? As we thought it would, right? But it
Yeah.
was only having something like Lucky Orange in place that enabled us to be able to ascertain that that was actually a problem for that particular client.
Yeah, I mean, the more data that an affiliate or a marketer, digital marketer, or online marketer online has, the more they can decipher of how the consumer or your readers or whoever is interacting with your website. And if you have a call to action for lead gen or for Jim, your client, to enter a credit card, then you understand, okay, this is slowing something down. I need to change it. What do I need to change? Kind of test it.
I mean,
Right.
again, I'm a paid search guy, and one of the first things I always do when we first start working with a new company, right, is we put in place site search into Google Analytics because most of them don't have it on, right? And we also put in, like again, so that will so the idea behind the site search is that basically tells you what people are not able to find when they get to your site. So somebody, if you're an
Oh,
e-commerce
interesting.
merchant and you're selling, let's say you got 100 products, right? And
Yeah.
they come to your site and they type in something into the search box, right? That is the stuff that they can't find on your site, right? The fact that they're using the site search tells you that they can't find the site, that they
Yeah.
can't find what they're looking for. So they're going, right, easy way, type in site search. And that is a gold mine of information, right? I mean, I'm working with
Yeah.
a company who's selling like sneakers, right? And they're doing incredibly well. But what we found was that loads of people were looking for, sneakers for people with wide feet and people with, like arch problems, right? So again,
Got it.
all the sorts of things that were the issues for them. It wasn't, I want blue, I want red, I want this size or anything. It was like they had particular problems with their feet. That was the
Hmm.
issue, right? So all of a sudden, when we're writing ad copy, we can talk to the problems that a lot of those people were basically sort of raising their hand and saying, I have that problem, right? I
Yeah.
have a
You
problem with,
basically making it personal for them, basically.
yeah. And the
Uh,
other thing that we always put in place is Google Search Console, right? So we link Google Search Console to Google Ads, right? Because
yeah.
that way we can see in Google Search Console, one, what ads we're buying and also which ones we rank for organically and if there's any gaps between them. So if we rank
That's pretty smart.
organically for a particular term, right?
Yeah.
Again, if you talked at the beginning about Google changing so much, I
Yeah.
mean, the organic results on Google are so far down the page now, it's almost like they don't exist, but they're still there, right?
Yeah.
And
But
for
how
me,
does
it's
that change in volume though? Like if somebody's doing it on the page, doesn't Google panel or Google AdWords or ads penalize you for keywords with low search volume?
so again, I always look at it and go, we kind of try and do things in aggregate, right? So we don't tend
Yeah.
to look at just one keyword in isolation and say it's not worth going after, right? We tend to kind of try and aggregate things and go for that long tail, right? So
Mhm.
again, like if you've got a head term, so I used to work for a company called Cheap Flights, right? And obviously the term cheap space flights would be searched on Google probably, I don't know,
Yeah.
50,000 times a day in the UK and maybe a couple of 100,000 times a day in the US, right? So again,
Mhm.
for us, it was a term that we wanted to be seen for all the time. So we were prepared to loss lead our sort of results to be number one when people type that in, right? Both organically and paid. But obviously that was typically the sort of the head term, and then there would be this big long tail that would trail off where people would type in cheap flights to London, cheap flights to London from New York, cheap flights to London from
Yeah.
New York in first class, in business class, whatever it might be. So you end up like with this sort of pyramid of kind of like the one at
Aggregate
the top
keywords. Yeah.
would be where all of the volume would be in terms of search volume, right? The ones at the bottom would be like, in a lot of cases, there might only be 5, 10, 15 searches a month, right? So you're probably talking about once every couple of days that search term would be searched for, right?
Yeah.
But if you can find 10,000 of them at that level, that's another kind of significant amount of volume. And those
Yeah.
words at the bottom end of the funnel would be much, much cheaper, right?
Interesting. Yeah, because I use for Google Ads, I do like I use a lot of the draw and modified, right? And it helps help me find a lot of the keywords that I need to create for my ad
So
ads.
again, I think the reality of it, Ian, is that if you take Google as it is now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Google are moving really quickly towards a kind of situation where it's not even about keywords anymore. It's about context, right? It's about
Hmm.
the situation that people find themselves in. So as an example, if you type in the word pizza, right? Then Google will look at the time of day that this is taking place, right? And the location of where you are and what device you're on to
Yep.
dictate what they think you're actually looking for when you type in the word pizza. So if it's like
Of
10 o'clock
course.
at night, right, and you are stood outside some nightclub somewhere, right, you type in the word
I mean,
pizza,
I
you're
don't party
probably
that much, so I don't know.
okay, but yeah, of course you don't. Yeah, sorry, not at 10 o'clock at night anyway. You don't even go out until midnight, right? but so the idea behind it is if you are standing and you type in pizza at 10 o'clock at night, you're not looking to kind of get the ingredients to go and
Yeah.
make one yourself. You want to go and buy a slice, or you want to go and buy a pie, right? Whereas if you
Yeah.
are on a desktop and it's, say, 5 o'clock in the evening, right, then the chances are they might offer you up a video to show you how to make a pizza, right? Because they know contextually that's what you're more likely to be in. And this is where I think, machine learning and artificial intelligence is really kicking in, right? So the context of the keyword will be different, right, in most cases, right? So that the reality of it is that Google are moving much more towards that context and further away from the keywords themselves, right? So yes, I know that obviously match type is still important, right? So again, like you, I do broad match, modified, and exact match, and I don't do phrase match. I don't do broad match, right? I've never done it, right? Because I hate them, because they've never been kind of good for delivering what I want.
That's interesting. I focus on broad modified. I do phrase to try to find more exact, to grow my exact, but I think phrase is also an important set of keywords to use after you find your set in your broad modified, especially.
Again,
Uh,
I think when you look at it, I mean, I don't know what the statistic is. I'm going to make it up, and this will be the truth, right? But
mhm.
there's probably 30% of all the searches every day are unique and have never been searched for before on Google, right? So,
Yep.
and that's usually like typically it'll be things like, people misspelling a word, right? Or they'll include like no spaces, or they'll add extra spaces. It's still like classed as a keyword, right? But what
Yeah.
Google are doing now is they're basically, they're allowing, because it used to be you had to buy every single keyword separately, right? So
Correct.
again,
And you can you had to even buy the misspelled words, but since Google autocorrects and all that stuff.
yeah, and that was the thing. I used to funny enough, I used to, when I was an affiliate back in the day, I was running here in the UK. We have a big online retailer called Tesco, right? They're sort of like a Walmart, but the same, probably about the same sort of size as Walmart, right?
Okay.
And they introduced car insurance, right? And Tesco is TESCO, right? And then obviously car insurance. And you think, great, fine. So we found 62 different misspellings of the word
Tesco.
Tesco car insurance, right? So car insurance with two S's in insurance, and insurance with an SE at the end rather than a CE. Tesco with two S's, like two
Oh
T's,
man.
two O, like so many different variations, right? And we were running that as an affiliate, right? And the people who were running the program basically said, "Oh, you need to stop bidding on those terms." I'm like, "But Tesco aren't bidding on them, right?"
Yeah. True.
And
That is
and
true.
and I'm like, and I'm just sending the traffic straight to the Tesco kind of the site,
Yeah.
right? So either I bid on it and we make the sales, or nobody bids on it, and they'll show somebody else, right? They'll show a competitor to Tesco instead, right? Because
Yeah.
they want to try and show up something. They're trying to do something. They'll show something different. Um,
But I mean, that's the craziest part. I mean, now back in the day, it was, I think, more complicated. Where it's much easier. Where you're right, where your phone will determine what Google will actually show you, what type of ad, what kind of organic listings they're going to show you.
yeah.
But the keywords for sure will still be relevant. Like I don't think
Again,
like the
I'm not
type of
saying that
videos.
keywords are not relevant, Ian. Right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that they are not the be all and end all as they used to be. Right? I
Yeah.
think again, I also think, again, we typically, whenever we kind of create a campaign for clients, or an account for clients, right, we normally put in probably about 80 different audiences, right? And those audiences could be custom intent, custom affinity, in market, customer lists.
Hmm.
It could be remarketing, right? So again, it could be, like audiences from, different channels. Again, one of the things we do is we bring audiences from Facebook, right, across from Facebook to Google, right? So
Of
again,
course.
it kind of makes sense, right? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't
Might
you
as
do
well
that?
use it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, because people have been to Facebook, and if I know that they've been to Facebook and they've seen one particular campaign, so again, one of the things that we see a lot of advertisers doing is they'll go, "Oh yeah, I've got this great strategy going on where I've got a campaign, and what I do is I run a video view campaign on Facebook,
Okay.
right? So I run a video; it's 15 seconds long, and I create an audience of people that have watched 50% of that video, and I remarket to them, right, on
Yep.
Facebook." And I'm like, do you remarket to that audience on Google? And they would go, no. And I'm like, well, why not? Because if that person has watched 50% of your video on Facebook and they find themselves over on google.com typing something else in, why on earth wouldn't you want to continue the conversation over there in the same way that you've done when you started on Facebook, right? And more importantly, why aren't you doing the same thing with YouTube, right? So again, like in the Google Ads ecosystem, right, you can create exactly the same campaign. So I want to create an ad in Google of people who will watch 50% of this YouTube video, right?
Yep.
So let's say the video is 30 seconds long. So it'll be people that watch 15 seconds of a video, right? But what I'll do is I'll then take that Google audience of people that watch 50% of the video, and if they find themselves on Facebook, I'll remarket to them over there, right?
Yeah.
So the idea behind it is, I'm shooting bullets all over the place because
it's not even that. You just want to finish the conversation that they've had from like, oh, by the time they got into the 7-second, they're like, oh, let me type in this brand real quick. And ignore the video. So you want to be like, oh, here's the video that you picked last 7 seconds you missed, right? And the ad. And that's what people don't understand. Back in the day, it was purely difficult, but now
and that's obviously where some of these newer channels really kind of kick into play, right? Things like native, so again, people that run Taboola, Outbrain, people that do Snapchat, people that do Pops. Right? Again, I've not really touched Pops, not because I'm kind of like wary of it. It's just I've just never really kind of felt inclined to want to kind of get. I've done a bit, right? I can say I spent a bit of money. Yeah, fine, done that, moved on, do something else, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Pops is definitely Pops and Push. I think are into a space where it can get fishy and changes over time, just because Google updates, browser updates. People talking about privacy, all that other things. But obviously, from like the tier ones, like the Taboolas, Outbrain, Facebook, the Google. I mean, even now, like I even think like TikTok and Snapchat might even be considered like a tier one traffic source. And I even think we're going to move from static ad to like where almost every ad needs to be visual, a video, a GIF, meme, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So again, I think when you look at it, I mean, Google and Microsoft are still going to be where people go to look for answers to specific questions that they have. Whereas I think, Facebook and all the other platforms, they're interrupting you from doing what you're on Facebook to do, right? So I don't go to Facebook to see videos of people, talking about
no cat videos for you.
No, but again, I typically go to kind of catch up with old friends, wish people happy birthday, like see what's going on in the world a bit. I mean, again, I'm kind of like, I'm not liking what's going on in the world on Facebook at the moment, right? If it's not politics, it's it's religion.
Something
if it's not
else.
religion, it's something else, right? And for me, it's just like, whoa, that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Right? So,
let me ask you this: what is like you mentioned Microsoft and Google, which Google is the powerhouse. Do you think Bing and Microsoft will have their algos updated, or
so here's the thing. So I got to tell you. So like I get asked by Microsoft probably 2 or 3 times a year to do like a testimonial or a case study type of thing, right? Because I've always kind of gone on record with them to basically say running Microsoft advertising campaigns is by far and away the most profitable stuff I run, right? It's by far and away the best stuff I run. The problem that they don't have is they obviously don't have the same scale of volume that Google does.
Yeah.
Right. But they went through a phase where the volume kind of increased a lot, right? So again, by default, anyone that buys a Windows computer, right, has Bing or Microsoft as the search engine of choice to begin with out of the box, right? Anyone that runs Firefox is Bing. Anyone that has Skype, Bing. Anyone that kind of uses LinkedIn is Bing, right? It's kind of, it's all these sort of places where Microsoft's ecosystem is involved, right? That's kind of where it's come from. And for me, it was always one of those things. I didn't want to say anything to them because then that would basically give the game away and I'd have lots more competition, right?
Yeah.
But again, even to this day, I mean, we probably get in the clients that we work with, somewhere in the region of between sort of 15 and 25% of the search volume, right, comes from Microsoft, right? But proportionately, again, if you look at conversion rates, the CPAs on Microsoft's are always so much better than Google, right? So much better, right?
Yeah,
Because it's less competitive, right? Because not
it
many
is less
people know
competitive.
about it,
But
right?
won't you say like let's say the volume on Google, compensates for that CPA on Microsoft then? I
So
mean, that's how
yeah,
I
so
would look at
again,
things.
I think you got to look at it. So Google in and of itself. So you've got Google search, right, and then
Yep.
you've got display network, you've
DSP.
got
Yep.
YouTube, right, you've got discovery. There's so many different ways in which
Partner
kind of
networks and
Google.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and and I think when you look at it, I mean, if you just did Google search network versus Microsoft, right, then they're pretty much. I wouldn't say they're on a par. I mean, Google's still by far and away bigger than Microsoft, but certainly performance wise, Microsoft will kick Google's butt all the time, always,
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy.
But again, I think a lot of people, I normally say, oh yeah, I do Microsoft. Oh, what do you do? Get like 2 sales a month or something? I'm like, yeah, okay. If that's what you want to say, fine. I'll take it. I don't care, right?
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about like Google Ad setup.
Yeah,
Um, Back in the day, everybody used to break down everything on Google Ads of like, I want to target weight loss keywords on mobile, desktop, tablet, based on phrase, exact, broad, and then based on the keyword term weight loss for dummies versus weight loss for women, weight loss for men, etc.
yeah.
Right? And they'll have like 50 to 100 campaigns set up. Whereas now, I think where I do is I do like a bulk aggregate. I put everything in one campaign, and I start segmenting each one. Um, and then based on conversions or clicks or ad performance, CTRs, and I start making a campaign based on that data point, and then I start to like funnel down everything, right? Instead of having a funnel up, right? So what do you,
I think you just muted yourself.
especially
Okay.
yeah, with a Google Ads campaign set up?
Sorry, say that again, Ian. I lost you there for a sec.
Oh, so how would you set up a proper Google Ads campaign? Whereas back in the day, creating an ad campaign by multiple campaign devices, keyword, keyword phrase, and by phrase type, broad, etc. Or is it better to create a bulk aggregate, one campaign, and then based on the stats, separate that keyword by device, then by let's say location based. And instead of having like 100 campaigns, you have like maybe five,
So
right?
again, I think you need to kind of look at the way Google has evolved over time, right? So again,
Mm-hmm.
it used to be right that the format that you sort of described was the way that people would set it up, right? So they kind of like do everything in a certain structure, right?
Yeah, the organization of that format is really good.
Yeah, and I tell you the biggest challenge that I sort of see is that when you kind of look at it, I mean, again, whenever we do audits of Google Ads accounts, right? So again, normally I'll look at accounts, and quite often you'll see people whose campaigns will be called Untitled 1, Untitled 2, Untitled 3, right? And I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, this is going to be fun, right? So,
Yes.
so again, I think what you need to try and do is, again, it depends on the complexity of what it is you're doing. So if you're doing lead gen, right, then
Mm-hmm.
obviously the structure of a campaign for lead gen will be different than if you're doing e-commerce, right? So if you're doing e-commerce, right, then obviously you would be splitting out things like the display network, shopping campaigns, YouTube
Mm-hmm.
campaigns. I'd say you'd have brand campaigns, right? So again, that's your specific brand, right? And again, those are the ones ultimately. Those campaigns, brand campaigns, ultimately are the ones that should fund a lot of the activity that you might lose money on elsewhere, but you make it up in volume. So we always kind of work on this blended average, right? So for me, it's like, if you're working with so again, let's say you're working with a sneaker brand, right? Then they probably want to rank number one on Google Ads for the term sneaker, even though it's a very generic top of
Broad.
funnel
Yep.
term, right? There's volume with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reality of it is if they did that, then they'd get completely buried,
Yeah,
right?
they would.
Because, but at the same time, it's like that gives them the opportunity to kind of get a cookie on them, and then they can remarket to them as they move further down the sort of the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
So what we tend to do is we'll do, again, we'll have brand campaigns, generic campaigns, product campaigns, shopping campaigns, display network,
Search
YouTube,
and all that. Yeah.
right? Remarketing campaigns. And then when it comes to kind of keywords, we'll do, again, we do exact match, right? And we do broad match modified, right? We don't do broad match, we do broad match modified. And what we do is we typically, so we actually mirror the exact match campaign and the broad match campaign, and usually mirrors of each other, right? And the idea behind the exact match is we want Google to prefer the exact match being the kind of one that they show. And the way we do that is we normally have a higher daily budget in that campaign, right? And we also have a higher maximum CPC or target CPA, whatever sort of the strategy we've got for conversion is, right? Mm-hmm. We'll have a higher target allocated to it, right? So again, if it's a case of we've got an exact match campaign with $100 budget, the broad match modified campaign will typically be around about 70 to 75% of that, right? So if it's $100, it'll be $75, right? And if the bids are $1, there'll be 75 cents. If it's, and then obviously from there we can kind of scale up. So if we go, right, okay, well, things are performing well, let's increase the budget to $200 on the exact match. We'll go up proportionately to maybe 140 on the broad match, right?
Yeah, and the reason why you do that with the exacts, because you obviously have a higher competition for that, and you want to obviously rank up.
Again, I think from the point of view of quality score is still important, right? And quality score will help to drive your CPCs down. So even though, right, we have our exact match and Google will prefer our exact match because they think it's a kind of better fit for the end user, right? We quite often will actually pay less money for the exact match terms than we do for the broad match terms, even though our bids are higher, right? And again, I'm not precious. I'm really not precious. I don't care, right? Because it's like effectively, it's the same landing page, it's the same ads, right? Yeah, the only difference is the keyword. I don't really care which one Google serves up as long as, right, mm-hmm. they're not matching me for really, really weird and wonderful and random things, right? So again, we have a whole bunch of Google Ads scripts that run in the background, right, mm-hmm. to actually give us an idea as to if it's not an exact match term, and even if it is an exact match, it's kind of like, the way Google does it is they'll show you what they call exact match close variant, right? So in other words, it's like not quite exact, but it's close enough to be deemed to be exact match, right? Yep. And then obviously if you're doing broad match, then they can show lots of other things. And if I find that they show lots of other things that I don't like, right, then I'll add those to my negative list. Yep. Right. I have a big master negative list for the whole account, and then I have like specific negative lists for the actual campaigns. And again, unlike a lot of people, I've seen some people who will, they'll have every single keyword that they've got in their broad match campaign as a negative in their exact match. And I'm like, that's way too much trouble. I'd much rather just let Google and me work it out between us, right? Yeah. To sort of dictate which ad they show. And again, if they're sensible about it, I'm saying, I'm going to pay $1 over here versus 70 cents over there. I'll show you the dollar ad, right? Because that's the one that is better for them, right? It's better for me because that way I know that they're marrying up the keyword that I've bid on rather than just some random term, right? Yep. And it's better for the end user because I'm presenting them with something that hopefully is what they've actually typed in. If the term marries up with the landing page, then it's a good user experience all round. Everyone wins, right? Google wins, I win, the client wins, the end user wins because they actually get what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to create like a campaign where you do all your keyword research up front, whereas I believe in putting just a couple keywords in Google AdWords and let broad modifier tell me which one works, and then I start splitting those into campaigns via search or whatever. Mostly with search, I just literally create one campaign. I let broad modifier decide what keywords are working, what devices are working. Then I start splitting those campaigns in itself. I don't believe this.
The other thing I kind of find is that again, like most of the success now will come from like ad extensions, right? So again, if you're running an ad and you're bidding aggressively to kind of be in one of the sort of top couple of positions, then you get a lot more real estate, right? So that's where like site links and call out extensions and price extensions, all those sorts of things really kind of kick in, right? So and obviously what we're finding now is that more and more of the ads that we run, right, we're allowing Google's machine learning to actually dictate what the title and description should be, right? So we typically will go, here's 5 different titles, here's 5 different descriptions, right? And Google will take their machine learning and actually make up the best ad for those people, right?
Yeah, correct. The thing that I do not like about that is because when you create a description, sometimes they interact and the flow messes up the language or the message going across
Yeah, so
sometimes.
again, it depends what type of ad you're running, but you can actually do what they call pinning. So you can actually pin a title or pin a description, right? So you can basically say, I want this to be only ever shown in position 1, right? Rather than
Oh,
it being
I
shown.
haven't seen that actually yet. Interesting.
Yeah. So again, if you go into you know, Google Ads Editor, then you can see they have that sort of pinning capability. So the idea behind it is, so again, let's say you were Nike, you could say official Nike store, right,
Yeah.
as your title, right? And what you
Yep.
could do is you can say, I want to pin that in position number 1, right? So in other words, nothing like you might show me all the other variations, but that one will always only ever be shown in position number 1.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I haven't
Rather
seen that
than the
actually.
third
Interesting.
the third sort of title kind of,
And
and
that's
it
only
could
in
be free
the
shipping made in the
ads
USA.
editor?
Sorry?
Is that
No, no,
only in
no,
ads
no,
editor?
no, that's
Okay.
in Google Ads as well.
Oh, I have to take a look at that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, man. So the stuff that like running traffic on Google Ads had been complicated. And do you think video, especially for YouTube, I hear a lot of affiliates, they're doing really, really well with YouTube video. And
Yeah.
I haven't experimented with it. I'm not sure if it's comparable to Facebook video just because
I
most
tell
of
you what, I
video
tell you
ads.
why I tell you why YouTube video is better than Facebook, right? Because on Facebook, you pay for every single
For the three
impression
second
that,
views. Like you pay
yeah,
for 3 second views, right?
yeah. Whereas
Yeah.
on Google, right, again, if you've done your videos correctly, right, on YouTube, then if you're running in-stream ads, yeah,
Mhm.
then if people don't watch more than 30 seconds of your ad, then you don't pay for that impression at all, right? It
Mhm.
still counts, so they can still create an audience from it based on people seeing it, right? So again, because the skip ads functionality kicks in at 5 seconds, right?
Yep.
You can get a lot of information into a YouTube video in the first 5 seconds, right? And you should,
That's true. You should.
right?
Yeah.
So in that first 5 seconds, right, then you should definitely be introducing, if you're running ads, definitely introducing your brand, right? Because then that way people might go from YouTube and go back to Google and type in the brand name, right? In which
Yep.
case it's like, that's a complete freebie. Yeah, because you haven't paid any money for the traffic on YouTube because they didn't kind of meet the criteria, which is they watched 30 seconds or more of the video.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I've
like
seen.
27 to 25 to 28 seconds into your video, that's when you should be absolutely call to action, call to action, call to action. Because if they don't click and kind of go off, if they click at 25 seconds and go off to your site, again, you still haven't paid for that because YouTube only get paid when you've hit 30 seconds.
Interesting. I did not know that on the publisher side, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, on obviously on the publisher side, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about like AdSense if you're a kind of YouTube
Yeah.
creator.
So yeah, correct. Yes, on that publisher side. Yeah, for the
Yeah,
30 seconds you're saying.
yeah. So again, like if you're yeah, I mean, if you're a publisher, then obviously you get paid a percentage of the money that Google makes, right? And I think
Correct.
I want to say it's 42% or maybe I don't know. I don't know what the exact number is, right? But it's not good. It's not a particularly good deal for you if you're a publisher, right?
Yeah.
Although I know a lot of people who are making a lot of money on
Same.
on
It's so
YouTube, right?
crazy though. Yeah, but then obviously all that stuff changed, but that's obviously a different conversation. But I see a lot of DSLs on there, and if you're talking about like 30 second to 5 second, like people are really staying on YouTube ad for 15 minutes sometimes. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Jesus Christ, they're actually
Well,
watching this
again, the
commercial.
thing is, once people, again, if you're good at telling a story, so again, you typically have the hook, right? Then you
Mhm.
have the kind of the introduction, then you have the content, right? And again, if the
Mhm.
content is educational and everything else, but at the end of it, there's some form of like a call to action, right? Hey, here's what I want you to do now. I want you to do this, this, and this, right? Or again, I always try and find one thing for people to do rather than 5 things, right? So
Yeah.
don't go download my ebook, do this, do that, do the other. It's like usually just get them to do one thing, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that
I mean,
one thing
that's what a
usually,
call to action is supposed to
yeah,
be. That
and it
one
should really
thing
be
to.
one. That one thing should be get them off YouTube, get them onto your site, and get, you know, again, get an email address from them in return for an ebook or something like that. So then at least you can continue the conversation that you've started over on YouTube, over on email or whatever other platforms you want to
Yeah,
run it.
I mean, even that with like, I even try to tag them wherever they go, especially if they go through an email series. I'm like, oh, I tag them third email on this X webinar on my,
Yeah.
especially for my Adventist community. Everybody goes through a 10-day training program, and then I start tagging by day the email series where they at. So this gives me a broader reach.
Yeah, but
Um,
again, the one thing I found, Ian, is that again, when I audit kind of Google Ads accounts, one of the things I always find is that people, one, in a lot of cases, they haven't linked their Google Ads and YouTube accounts together, right?
mhm,
And two, they definitely haven't created any audiences based upon the interactions that people have had with their videos on YouTube, right? Whether that's organically or as an ad, right? And if you think about it, if you are an advertiser and you have a video that is 15 minutes long, 20 minutes long, right? If
mhm.
somebody has watched 50% of that video, that's 10 minutes of content, right? You know
Yeah,
that if somebody's watched 10 minutes of your content, they haven't watched it by mistake, right? They have
correct.
deliberately watched that.
They're
Yeah.
hooked in already somehow. You know
And
what I
there
mean?
needs to be what's the next logical thing that people have watched 50% of the video? What's the next logical thing for them to do? And it could be you show them another video, right? Or it could be you offer them something else kind of on a different platform. But you've just got to almost like map out your kind of route to conversion, right? In advance before you actually start thinking about spending your money. I mean, again, normally what we do is we spend a huge amount of time, right, mapping out what that journey looks like, what channels people could use potentially, make sure we tagged everything, we've got everything kind of worked up so that, wherever they end up, we are there and we have got something for them that
Mhm.
continues the conversation wherever they kind of got to in the journey, right?
Oh man, I consulted for one company before, and then they had crazy mind map of interaction, and I would not ever think that far. And I think that's a very difficult thing to really map out that journey. Like I
I mean,
usually
again,
go,
most of the accounts that we work with, like we use Google Tag Manager to kind of do most of the heavy lifting in terms of the pixels and everything else, right? So we
yeah,
don't have anything hard coded; it's all in the container, right? And normally in our accounts, we probably have 50 tags. We normally have maybe 80, not 80. About 20 triggers, right? And we
hmm,
have anything between sort of 50 and about 150 variables, right? And these are, nodes of information. So it'll be things like somebody's first name, last name, email address. So again, all the things that people were going, oh, Facebook have introduced this thing. It's called enhanced match, right? So basically, it's a way of making getting a closer match when you're doing lookalike audiences. Like, yeah, but they had that right from the beginning. You just
correct,
needed
yeah,
to code it in rather than it being available like as a sort of toggle button, right?
yeah,
Now you have a toggle button that will do enhanced match, whereas they've had it for years, right? And we had that capability. So whenever somebody filled in a form, right, we would populate into like this data layer, the first name, last name, email address, phone number, zip codes, city, state, all that sort of stuff, so that we knew that if we were running lookalike audiences, our match rate was going to be much, much higher
yeah,
than any
exactly.
other advertisers,
Yep,
right?
I agree. But
And
they don't
because
do
of
that
that,
now anymore, right? You're not
sorry,
allowed to. They don't. Facebook doesn't allow you to do that now anymore.
oh, no, you absolutely you still can.
You can't import because we before that turning on enhanced version on, we had to actually import the data, right?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get it properly coded or whatnot. So we imported the first name, last name,
I mean,
address, or
I know Google have made it difficult now for new advertisers. So, like, if you're a new advertiser that wants to upload your customer list
yeah,
with a view to either creating a kind of like an exclusion list or create a lookalike, right, or
correct.
similar audience as they call it in Google, you
Yep.
need to have had an account for a period of time and have spent 50 grand, right? So if you haven't spent 50 grand, forget it. You're not going to get customer list at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. But I thought they did the same thing with Facebook. Then they now they took away the ability to import and share that data points.
Yeah, so I think they took away the ability for you to share an audience kind of elsewhere, right? So again, they've made it very difficult for you to kind of do that, right?
Hmm.
Again, there are third parties out there. I mean, again, all the sort of cool things that you used to be able to do with Facebook, the kind of the way in which you can do the cool things in Facebook still exists, but it just exists outside of the Facebook ecosystem.
Yeah, got it.
Right?
Man, digital advertising is always forever changing. It always gives the headache. You know what I
But
mean?
again,
So
I think in some respects, Ian, that's one of the kind of secret sources is knowing what's changed and what you need to do to kind of compensate for that change, right? Is
yeah,
it an
yeah, correct.
opportunity or is it a threat? If it's an opportunity, you kind of dive in like with both guns blazing, right?
Yeah,
I always remember, like, so you know John Fisher from Wicked Fire, right?
back in the day, yeah.
So way back
He,
in the day.
he,
So
he used to make fun of me a lot, you know, because I was a newbie. You know,
So again, John and I are really good friends. At one point in time, we worked together for a bit, but really interesting. So back in I think it was like 2009, right? So Facebook ads
okay.
had just started, right? And they went through this phase where they weren't accepting any ads of any description from anyone, right?
Well, they
And
had
then
one of my first ad on Facebook was the with sidebar, and you're only allowed to do like a mini graphic of like 120 by 60 and a headline, something like
yeah,
that, right?
so again, at the time, I think we were slinging things like acai berry, green coffee bean, right?
Yeah.
And basically Facebook, so John published a post in Wikifire, and I can still kind of like to this day, it's still there, right? He published this post to basically say, I've just come off the phone with my Facebook rep, right? They are basically going to be approving anything, right? And I basically pulled an all-nighter. I just thought, you know what, if everything's going to be approved, then I'm just going to completely dive in
Yeah.
head first, right? And I
Yeah.
didn't go to bed, and I just sat there all night creating ads, because I knew at some point in time,
It's
right,
gonna be gone.
the gate would
Yeah.
come down and it would be like not doing it anymore, right? Whether they
Yeah.
did it because they needed the money to kind of like for quarterly returns or something like that, I don't know. But I knew that window of opportunity was going to be limited, right?
Hmm.
And again, the people that went to bed, right, and thought I'll get
Lost.
to it on Monday, they were the ones that were going to lose out. The ones that kind of
Yeah.
like pulled an all nighter and kind of like hammered it, they were the ones that were going to win.
Yeah, this is what I love about like the affiliate marketing. Like we were saying in the beginning, it's like the reason why I keep falling back is because the constant changes is annoying, but it's also like promising, exciting, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
now I got to figure something else out. You know what I mean? So with affiliate marketing always changing, what is like the one thing one marketer should do to always be on top or always be consistently growing? Because the changes sometimes pull people back down, and you don't even like you should probably know, like we don't see any of the affiliates that we used to hang out with back in the day anymore. You know what I
No.
mean? Let's say there was 20 of us, now it's only literally me and you, you know?
Does that mean we're
So
the smart guys or we're the dumb ones?
I don't know, right? I think we're
I,
pretty more advanced in trying to figure things out much more. I find the excitement in the rush of figuring it out.
Again, I don't know about you. I've been very fortunate. I've been in industry. I've loved ever since I've been in it, right? And I don't really think of it as having a job, right? For me, it's not. I don't really feel like I have a job, right? I
Yeah.
feel like I just have an experience, and it's something. It's something that constantly challenges me, right? I'm always trying to help people, right? Again, I
Mhm.
try and do whatever I can to help people wherever I can, right? Wherever that is in the world, right? Travel a lot, speak at conferences. That's the thing I'm probably missing now with this coronavirus is the ability to kind of get on a
Just
plane and go and hang out with friends and drink beers
yeah.
and
Just interactions. Like this interaction is good, but some like I just want to shake your hand sometimes. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's a big difference, right?
no, for sure.
So,
But
but
yeah, and I think in some respects the affiliate marketing is not going anywhere. It's still here. It's always going to be here. There's always going to be challenges. The challenges will be different sometimes, but they're always going to be challenges. Again, like if you look at it, like again, I was talking to some people that they kind of do a lot of drop shipping and stuff like that, right? And it's just like,
yeah,
well, and again, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can do drop shipping and still do well, right? But the reality of it is you need to be moving towards having your own product and having your own factory and all that sort of stuff to get to the point where you can have some control over the environment that you're creating for your customers. Because ultimately, if you're not in control of that, then you are not in control of your business, right? So for me, it's really just a case. And again, I know a lot of people that only do Amazon, right? They do everything in the Amazon ecosystem, right? And the problem is that, again, let's say you have a product that sells really well, right? Amazon will eventually, if they think your product sells really well, they'll create a similar version of your exact same product, right?
Exactly.
And before you know it, what you think was your kind of best ally, which was Amazon, is your biggest competitor, right? And they're going to promote their product over your product every day of the week.
Exactly. So it's just adaptability for people, for marketers, or anybody that's doing anything
and
online.
I think the other thing I would say, Ian, is that people need to accept that there is limited windows of opportunity that will present themselves, and sometimes those windows will be a few days, sometimes it'll be a few weeks, sometimes it'll be a few months. If you're really lucky, you might get something that lasts a year and a half, right? Again, way back in the day, I used to do ringtones, and that probably I did really well on that for probably 18 months, right? I did really well on payday.
I think I got the tail end of it. That was only about when Shumi was doing it. I probably caught it after him, and probably 6-7 months after that, and that was it.
But again, I mean, for me, that was a really kind of interesting thing. So the big advertiser in the space at the time was actually a company based in Hong Kong, right? And I just got on a plane and I went and had dim sum with the guy who ran it, right, to talk about how we could basically do more business with him, right? And he says, well, what do you need? I'm like, well, I need you to pay me quicker, right? And he said, well, how quickly do you want to be paid? I'm like, well, how about you pay me every day, right? So he paid me every day, right, for the business that we did the previous day, right? Because again, if you're an affiliate, cash flow is going to be one of the biggest killers.
It is.
Right?
It is.
So again, it's agree. Don't let the advertisers or the network's problems be your problems, right? So again, I always kind of say, look, go in and be really kind of robust and upfront. So you say, look, I need a payout quicker than your standard monthly payout. And they go, well, we can't do that. And well, in that case, I'm not interested in working with you, right?
Yeah.
And if they say, well, what sort of volume will you do, right? Again, well, what sort of volume do I need to do to get kind of paid quicker, right? And it used to be, when I had my network, it was always if somebody was going to do $1,000 in commissions a week, I'd pay them every week, right? Rather than $4,000 a month. Because I knew if I paid them $1,000 in a week, right, they could pay their credit card. They could pay their credit card bill off and do another $1,000. Right. Whereas if I had to wait for them to pay their credit card bill and I was only paying them $4,000 in a month, right, we'd end up with a lot less business because of it. Right. So I was just trying to.
Traffic was stagnant and all that, and quality score between ad and network would change, and they might even find a similar offer that could pay you out, so you'll miss that opportunity.
Yeah,
so
and that was the thing. There was always this kind of ecosystem, right? So that there'd be, this is the advertiser, this is you sort of promoting that offer, right? And if there's 4 different affiliate networks in between, they're all taking their cut, right? So there might have been $25 for a lead, and you're getting paid $8 because the other 17 is being whittled out in between, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's the reason why I made this tool back in the day, to figure out who the main advertiser was, who the main network was, who was the AOR and all that. Just because
and for me,
to get the highest.
The closer you are to the kind of the food, the kind of the more likely it is, one, that you're going to get paid, and 2, you're going to get kind of the right amount of money.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree. Well, Jim, that's kind of it what we have for now. I know I'm taking a bunch of your time. It's a really good conversation.
You too, my friend.
We need to do it a little bit more often. I need to go back overseas. Anyway, you guys are closing the country to Americans, I've heard.
Well, okay, I have no idea. I mean, I was actually in the States, and I had to kind of fly back to the UK. Had it not been for that, I'd probably still be in the States now. And
but it wouldn't affect you.
Sorry?
Would it affect you, since you're a resident of the UK?
Yeah. Well, again, the problem I have is because I'm not an American. If I got sick in America, I would not be covered by insurance, right? So
yeah.
I could have stayed, but it was I'm not really sure. So I chose to come back. But
that's what happened with me when I was in Vietnam. I was doing a visa run. I went to the country, and then Vietnam just closed the country. I'm like, all my stuff is there.
Yeah. So you're going to go back to Vietnam when it opens up?
the plan is they're planning to open, Asia's planning to open up in September, from what I've read. I'm hoping to. I'm just taking everything day by day. I'm just hoping everybody becomes more conscious, understand the vaccine and all this stuff's happening. And I don't know. I'm just, again,
Yeah,
trying
and
to
again,
make sure everything's okay day
as
by
much
day.
as the knowledge is good when you have like a conference where they'll do a virtual one, to
Hmm.
me that's not what the conference is about. The conference is about the meeting up with old
Networking.
friends, shooting the
Yeah.
shit in the bars. You know,
Yeah,
again,
I agree.
all the best deals I've ever done have taken place normally at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning in a bar. Right, we agree to do something, and we've done great things kind of together because of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the virtual summits and all that, it's just very, very one-on-one. Just like, what can you do for me? What can I do for
Yeah,
you? Type thing. Where it's like, hey, let me just buy you a beer because I haven't seen you in 3 years. You know what I mean, or whatnot.
yeah,
So, but Jim, again, thank you for having this conversation with me. It's a really, really good
absolute pleasure.
one. And for everybody out there, Jim will go ahead and give us information. And I don't know which one you want to
Uh,
advertise
so
and all
it's really
that.
funny. So there is actually on Twitter there is a Republican senator called Jim Banks, right? And I keep getting all of his hate tweets to me
Ooh,
because I have at Jim Banks. So if you want to get hold of me, at Jim Banks on Twitter is probably the easiest and quickest way, right? Um,
that's actually pretty good that you have
I've
that.
got all of them. I got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Again, because as soon as they come out, I'm in. Right, I'm in.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
them. I got them all. Instagram, everything. Right.
There you go. So just Jim Banks him and
So
everywhere you can
just
find him,
Jim Banks
guys.
on any platform, and you'll find me.
Very good, very good. Awesome, man. Thank you again. And for everybody out there, thank you for listening to the podcast. This information here will be covered probably in the Adventures community as well. And we'll talk about everything that's been discussed here, from the heat map to setting up the Google to changes in Google algorithms within the community as well. So again, Jim, thank you for being on here. And for you guys, we're out, and thank you for listening.